What is up, YouTube? Chris back with FrozenSoldierAirsoft, and today we're going to be continuing the Gearbox disassembly for the S&T PPSh 41. Wait, hold on. Before we begin, I just want to give a quick shout out to Ubsteve. I butchered a name, really sorry. But he really wanted me to name this episode Box Busters, so Ubsteve, this is for you. So the tools that you're going to need for this job are basically what I call Chris's box of miscellaneous tools. So I'm just going to pull them out and tell you which ones you need. So the first tool that you're going to need is like the previous one. You're going to need a flathead screwdriver. This is for the quick change spring guide that is on the gun. The next thing that you're probably going to need, although you don't really need it, specifically this tool, you're going to need a small hammer or an object that you can punch pins out and such. But a multi-tool is also good. This is just some hammer multi-tool thing that I bought many years ago, and I can't remember what it is, but it's a pretty neat tool, and it's always good to have this one laying around. So the next thing that you're going to need is a pair of pliers, specifically needle nose pliers. Now these, obviously, as you can tell, I've used lots of these tools many times for just miscellaneous projects, including airsoft and, you know, all this other stuff that, you know, you use tools for, which is quite a bit. But yeah, you're gonna need a set of needle nose pliers. A larger pair of pliers won't work because you're going to use this to take these small springs which are located throughout this gearbox. You're gonna need this to take them off. The next tool that you're gonna need is a small Phillips screwdriver. This is for obviously the small Phillips screws located once again throughout the gearbox. You're gonna need this handy a lot, so I would definitely recommend getting a smaller one, roughly this size. Just make sure that you don't get a big one because you'll risk stripping the screws. And then obviously the next thing that you're going to need is just a miscellaneous pile of Allen keys. These in here are metric. I don't have my metric set, a Husky set laying around, so these are just no-name metric Allen keys that I've just tossed together over the years. This English standard one, I do not recommend using it, but like I said, I don't have a complete metric set of Allen keys, so this will work as a good substitute. At least I hope. It worked well in the last video. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do after you get your gearbox disassembled and all the tools that you need to do this, the first thing you want to do is grab your flathead screwdriver like so, and you want to get rid of the screw back here for the quick change spring guide. So simply turn, now this is a little stiff, there we go, but simply turn that and you can unscrew it with your finger afterwards. It's just a lot easier because it is a pretty long screw. So simply take that screw off, put it to the side. So the next thing that you're probably going to notice is that it's got a spot for the Allen key. Now this is where the quick change spring guide is located. This is the back of your spring guide. It is a specific Aries S&T design. To my knowledge, you can't get any upgrade parts for the spring guide. I could be wrong, I don't know. But so you just want to take it like so and turn it, and that'll just pull your whole spring out. This will make your life a whole lot easier. So pull the spring guide and the spring out. It's really simple. Quick change, so you can adjust your FPS on the fly, literally. So now once you've done that, you want to flip the gearbox over this way, and now you're going to notice is that you're going to have to pull the bolt off. Now the bolt has two spring pole design. I'm not exactly sure what to call this, but the spring is right here, and these metal rods, this is what the charging handle slides on, as you can tell. Now you're gonna have to remove this. If you have those little C-clips, use the needle nose pliers. If you don't, and this is like your third or fourth or fifth or what, you know, however many times you've taken this thing apart and you don't have those little C-clips, because in my opinion they're not worth $10 for 4 little clips that is smaller than my pinky nail. It's ridiculous. So I just use super glue. So basically once you get this to this part, sort of, like I said, this is off script, so it's not going to be the greatest, but so you want to take your hammer and just kind of whack these out like so, and hypothetically speaking, that should come right out. So then you pull your charging handle back, and you should be able to remove these springs now, like so, and then you should be able to push these or pull the pins out through the front like that. Okay, so now your bolt cover comes off. So this is just another step in the whole gearbox disassembly process. Set this to the side. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do once you take the charging handle off is you want to grab, now this doesn't have to be in exact order, you just want to remove basically all these screws throughout the gearbox. Now I like to do it, obviously, I like to go from this, or I like to go from what is my right to my left. I'm pretty sure it's opposite for you guys on the camera, but I'm going to start on this side and just kind of orient it so you guys can get a better shot. So the first thing that you want to do, like I said, you don't have to do it exactly as I'm doing it. It's just disassembly, so whatever way you prefer. But this is the way I prefer to do it. Excuse me. The first thing that you want to do is you want to unscrew these plastic pieces right here that are holding on your wires. Now, like I said earlier, this is what you want to use your Phillips. You're mainly going to be using this small Phillips screwdriver to unscrew most of it, because most of the screws are very small. So unscrew the next screw right here, and we'll get this one off like so. And this is just so that way when you take your gearbox, you have a little bit of leeway with the wires, and they're not stuck in one position when you're disassembling it. You don't have to take the wires off, like I stated previously, but if you want, I just suggest doing it, so it just gives you a little bit more wiggle room when you're installing things, uninstalling, so on and so forth. So the next thing you want to do is this screw right here, which is for is the spring detentioner latch. Now this latch right here, when you pull the charging handle back, it's going to hit this piece right here, and that hits your anti-reversal latch. So let's say that you fired it, you spam fired it on semi-auto, but you didn't actually. You pulled the trigger, it wound the motor and the spring back, but you didn't actually fire a shot off. So it's in this in-between stage of where the trigger or the spring has tension, but you didn't fire the shot. So, or it's the same thing with full auto. You know, sometimes, most of the time when you're shooting full auto, it doesn't complete a full revolution. And the reason why they installed an anti-reversal latch to begin with is just that way, if you don't end up doing a full revolution, you don't load more than 1 BB in the chamber. So that's just kind of a neat little tech tip. So the first thing that you want to do in removing this spring detentioner latch is unscrew this small Phillips screw like so. Now is a good time to take your set of needle nose pliers, grab the spring, and just kind of pull it out. Okay, now these will separate. So back, when you're putting the gearbox back together, just make sure that the spring is oriented like this. You want the part that's higher to go into the latch, and the part that's lower to go onto the gearbox. So just a thing of reference there. So you want to flip it over again. You want to take this small screw out like so. Take it, put it to the side. So the next piece you want to take off is obviously the latch, which activates the trigger blocking mechanism, so that way you don't accidentally fire it when you're detensioning the spring. Take that off, set it to the side. Okay, so now you're going to notice that everything is off the gearbox except for this little spring piece. So you can either do it by hand, which I do not recommend because it might slip out, shoot somewhere, and you lose it. So take your needle nose pliers, pull up, and pull it around. So as you can tell, here's the spring like so. Just once you set that spring aside, the next thing that you're going to notice is that all the screws are located here. You're going to have to start taking them off. Now you can take these off any way you'd like. I just like to go in a circle this way. I believe to you guys that's clockwise, but to me it's counterclockwise. And if you guys are interested later on, if you guys like these disassembly videos, I'm totally okay with doing more disassembly videos. If you guys like them, guns that I've already previously reviewed, I can do disassemblies on. If I haven't reviewed the gun, don't ask unless you're willing to send me a gun for free. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I do all this basically. I review friends, teammates, my own personal weapons. So those are the guns basically I can get access to disassemble and do full-on reviews. Alright, so here's the last screw right here. Now there is a screw located here. Obviously you can tell I'm unscrewing it, but I didn't actually see it the first time I was taking the gearbox out, so it's just a good reference point to know. Okay, now we can finally pull this thing open. So you just want to carefully lift the gearbox shell up and out, and like so. Look at that. Okay, here we go. Now we're inside the gearbox. This probably is not the greatest designed gearbox. Not a fan favorite, at least in my book, because there's really no room to put a MOSFET because they put in a micro switch. Now, micro switches are nice for low current electronics. This is not a low current electronics, so I don't understand why they're putting these micro switches in here. They just simply can't handle that much current. They burn out really fast. Not to hate on micro switches, they give you excellent trigger response. So no complaints on the excellent trigger response, but just nothing higher than a 9.6, honestly. The 9.6 is really stretching it, to be honest with you. Most of the internals are not plastic, with the exception being the tappet plate here, which I am 90% sure is a Ares S&T design specific only, meant for this gun, so you can't get any replacement parts or upgrade parts. Well, you can get replacement parts. Let me rephrase that. You can get replacement parts, but you can't get any upgrades. So you can't get like a metal tappet plate, but it's a little bit flexible, which is good. I'd rather have flex than brittle plastic. So honestly, using this gun, I haven't had any troubles with it. Now, this is probably the biggest gripe about the entire gun right here, is this piston. I do not like the piston they put in here. It's not the greatest. It has pretty bad compression, even with a brand new O-ring, which I installed here. So now moving on to, we're just going to move back to the trigger here real quick. As you can tell, this is a proprietary trigger and trigger assembly. This is a weird little trigger bar that they designed, which I actually kind of like. It is a little bit big and sometimes doesn't work if you don't get it adjusted right when you put the gearbox back together, but it is made out of metal, really hard. It's not breaking. So now the selector switch right here is pretty simple, and on the opposite side, like I'd show you, I'm not going to flip it over because all the contents will spill out, but on the opposite side, this is where your selector switch. Clicking it closer to the trigger will obviously get you full auto. Clicking it away will be semi-automatic. The next thing that I'm going to note is we're going to go back up to the cylinder and the tappet plate. Now the tappet plate is held in by a spring, which is, here, I'll get something to point at it for you guys, which is located right here. Tappet plate, like I said, not the best quality, could be better, could be worse. Definitely leaning towards the better side on this tappet plate. The cylinder is made out of what I believe is aluminum. Yeah, that is definitely aluminum right there. Made out of aluminum, definitely pretty high quality. I liked it. So the other thing I really didn't like is that I am 90% sure it has a proprietary nozzle, but it does almost slightly look like a version 2. So do not quote me on that. So back to the cylinder. It is a two-piece cylinder, and it's actually really, the cylinder head is in there very snugly, so I don't really worry about any air escaping through, at least through the cylinder head. It seems pretty decent, but you can, like I said, you can always get version 2 upgrade parts for this. Now the next proprietary part, which is made out of good quality, is the weird two-piece hop-up that they decided to do. So basically the other part of the hop-up mates with this, and it doesn't create the best air seal, but the hop-up that's in the gun is actually really accurate, surprisingly enough that it doesn't have a 6.03 or 6.0 or a tight bore barrel just in general. So this is definitely a good proprietary piece. I don't think it's steel. No, it is not steel, but it is metal, and it seems very durable. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody breaking this. Okay, so the next thing that you want to notice, or the next thing that we're going to go over, is just the gears. I am 90% sure that these gears are made out of steel. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that is very good. Okay, so these are pretty decent gears. I like these. The gears, like I said, they aren't the greatest you can get. You can definitely get better gears than this. But they are made out of steel, so that is very nice. They're very durable, and I don't think I've ever heard of anybody chipping these. I could be wrong. I don't know. So the next part we're going to go over is the sector gear. Now, this sector gear is made out of steel. Very nice quality. Not a whole lot to be said about it. Same thing with the spur gear. Now, the spur gear actually rotates very nicely. It could be a lot better. Let me get rid of this trigger assembly here. Here's a trigger assembly, nothing fancy, proprietary part. Don't break it. If you do, go get a replacement from S&T Airsoft. Got to order them from them specifically because they're a bunch of Nazis. As you can tell, this gear actually spins pretty nicely. I mean, that is not the greatest, you know. And the anti-reversal latch is a version 2 spring as well. Not bad, nothing fancy there. And the motor, not the greatest. Not taking it out because it is a pain in the butt to get the spring up and out. Hold on to the spring if you're going to upgrade the motor. The motor's decent. It's not going to give you the highest rounds per second, but it works for me. You know, just not the greatest motor, not the worst. Definitely pulls an M110 spring very nicely. I haven't tried an M120. I might. I don't know. I'll give an update and maybe put a annotation somewhere how well it works with an M120 spring. But for the most part, the motor just comes with a steel pinion gear. So pretty durable motor. Not the best. But yeah, that is literally about it for the Gearbox. If you have any questions on upgradability, please put them in the comments section below. Send me a private message over YouTube, and hopefully within the next couple of months here, you'll even be able to ask questions over our Bailey Airsoft Division Facebook page. Hopefully we'll get that up, you know, in the next couple of months here. But as of now, put them in the comment section below. Send me a private message. Wherever you want to contact me, I will be happy to help you guys upgrading any guns. Just ask me. So that basically wraps up for the disassembly / review of the S&T /Ares PPSh 41 Gearbox. Apologize, it's a little bit long, but anyhow, thanks for watching, guys, and please subscribe.